All right, let's jump right into a really fascinating explainer today. We're looking at a vehicle that's basically turning everything we thought we knew about open-top driving completely upside down. We are right in the middle of a massive shift in automotive passion. So whether you're a hardcore lifelong gearhead or you're just kind of fascinated by how cutting-edge tech disrupts old-school traditions, this explainer is going to unpack a really incredible transition that's happening out on the roads right now. For decades, the absolute essence of a sports car was defined by its acoustics and its mechanics, right? We've always measured a car's soul by the noise, the vibration, that visceral mechanical thrum of a combustion engine. So, taking all that away leads us to a pretty provocative question. When you completely remove that mechanical soundtrack, do you just kill the soul of the Roadster? What we're looking at is a total paradigm shift. On one side, you've got the traditional internal combustion experience. It's all about that dramatic, noisy buildup of engine revs and physical vibrations. And on the flip side, we have the EV reality. It's totally defined by silence, instant torque, and absolute surgical precision. It's a huge move from a loud crescendo to just an immediate, quiet readiness. To really wrap our heads around the shift, we're going to explore one very specific, groundbreaking vehicle today, the MG Cyberster. This car is basically serving as the ultimate test case to see whether raw driving emotion and battery electrification can actually coexist. It's trying to bridge that classic British Roadster heritage with some seriously modern EV tech. Here is our roadmap for the explainer today. First, the electric Roadster dilemma. Then, we'll officially meet the MG Cyberster. After that, we'll look at handling without the noise, dive into the economics of emotion, and finally wrap up with our key insights and final verdict. So, kicking things off with Section 1, the electric Roadster dilemma, expectation versus reality. The big issue here is that, historically speaking, silence has been the absolute enemy of drama in sports cars. Emotion was always inextricably tied to that roaring exhaust note bouncing off a canyon wall. And without that familiar rise and fall of engine revs, a lot of driving enthusiasts are genuinely worried that the emotional core of the drive is just gone. The fear is real. If a car doesn't roar, can it still give you a thrill? Which brings us to Section 2, meet the MG Cyberster, a totally new kind of roadster. The Cyberster actually occupies a really unique space right now because it's currently the only fully electric roadster in series production. But it doesn't just rely on that classic two-seat open-top silhouette to grab your attention. Oh no. It turns heads instantly with some very dramatic features like striking scissor doors and a heavily driver-oriented cabin. And what's super fascinating about its design philosophy is that rather than aiming for that extreme stripped-down track day lightness, it leans hard into a grand touring focus. It really prioritizes a comfortable, pleasurable road driving experience. And the sheer performance to accessibility ratio on this thing is kind of wild. For a starting price of €63,000, you can get the rear-wheel drive model pushing 340 horsepower with a really solid 507 kilometers of range. But, and this is the crazy part, for just a bit more, at €68,000, you jump up to the GT all-wheel drive version. That one pushes over 500 horsepower and rockets from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in a staggering 3.2 seconds. I mean, that is literal supercar territory, packaged up in a comfortable touring roadster. Moving on to Section 3, handling without the noise. Building a totally different kind of connection. Before the Cyberster even starts moving, it completely messes with your expectations. Instead of that ignition bark and mechanical prelude you'd expect from a gas sports car, you get this eerie, quiet readiness. And when you finally press the accelerator, it responds instantly. It totally replaces the anticipation and theatrics of an internal combustion engine with pure, unadulterated precision. The electric torque just arrives in this clean, uninterrupted surge of power. Now that precision is backed up by some seriously smart engineering. Because the heavy battery pack is mounted incredibly low down in the chassis, the car ends up with a remarkably low center of gravity. This translates to a super-planted, stable, and composed feel when you're throwing it through twists and turns. It intelligently carries its mass, which means minimal body roll. That's a sweet spot that a lot of heavy electric performance cars really struggle to find. I absolutely love this quote from our sources because it perfectly captures the essence of this whole transition. It says, "What you lose in sound, you gain in immediacy." It reminds us that the absence of engine noise isn't actually a compromise. Instead, it's more like a total recalibration of your senses behind the wheel. Think about it for a second. Without the overwhelming distraction of all that mechanical noise, other sensations actually get a chance to come forward. The clarity of the tire feedback, the directness of the steering, they become so much more pronounced. You can easily feel and interpret the relationship between your throttle input and the chassis response. It lets you lean into corners with absolute confidence, basically replacing guesswork with a direct, clear line of communication between you and the road. All right, let's pivot to section 4, the economics of emotion. We're talking about the paradox of value. Whenever we talk about sports cars, we inevitably have to talk about what our sources call the paradox of value. Traditionally, classic Spiders and Roadsters hold their value really well, mostly because enthusiast circles cherish that mechanical nature. But EVs? They're often viewed kind of like technological devices, like a smartphone, rather than an emotional mechanical good. And because EV tech is evolving at light speed, there's a genuine fear out there regarding long-term depreciation. People are worried the car will just become obsolete. But here is the specific data point that completely upends that fear. 70%. The cost of lithium cells has plummeted by over 70% in just a single decade, and market projections are showing even further price drops by 2030. What this actually means for you as a potential owner is massive. It means future maintenance, like eventually replacing batteries or sourcing rebuilt electrical components, is going to be far more affordable than anyone previously thought. This natural drop in component costs effectively transforms a car like the Cyberster from a temporary tech device that you just toss out in 5 years into a real durable good. It ensures the car can actually have a long, sustainable, and economically viable life sitting right there in your garage.
And that brings us to Section 5, Key Insights and Verdict. Time for the final takeaway.
Our deep dive today reveals 3 major insights you should take away from this. First, the Cyberster offers this exceptional duality. The lack of engine vibration makes it incredibly calm and relaxing in urban stop-and-go traffic, but it's still thrillingly engaging on open, winding roads. Second, it completely redefines what it means to be a driver-focused car, prioritizing immediate precision and chassis feedback over sheer acoustic theatrics. And third, its long-term economic viability is actually improving every day as EV battery and component costs continue to drop. So we're going to leave you with this final lingering thought. Is this the end of automotive nostalgia, or is it actually the beginning of a completely new kind of connection between driver and machine? The MG Cyberster might not satisfy the most hardcore traditional purists who demand exhaust noise, but it absolutely opens a thrilling new chapter for those willing to reconsider what makes a sports car truly compelling. It doesn't erase the emotion, guys. It just redistributes it. I want to give a massive thank you to all of you for tuning in today. Taking the time to explore these really complex paradigm shifts in automotive engineering with us is exactly what makes this community so great. Hopefully, these key insights have given you some really useful info and a fresh perspective on the future of driving. So keep questioning, keep learning, and definitely stay curious. We will see you in the next explainer.